Alright, today we're back on the to20. Well, I got the front end out from under it. I decided to drop the oil pan and see what was going on in there. And really didn't find nothing. It was pretty clean, actually. Of course, the neighborhood dogs were going crazy. But, so while I was under there poking around, I grabbed a hold of the oil pump gear and I can move it up and down. And I figured I better pop it off of there and have a look inside and see what's going on. And this is it right here. I've already taken it apart, and this is what we found in there. These gears are wore plumb out. You can see the wear in them and scoring on them. You see this one here, the corners of the teeth are chipped off or rubbed off there. They should look like that one right there. Now it was making oil pressure what little bit I was able to run it. But the gauge I got on there wasn't very good, so I'm not exactly sure how much it was able to make. But the relief valve piston here that goes down in this bore, it was stuck, so I was able to get it out, and now that I got it all cleaned up, you know, I ran a ball hone in there and kind of cleaned this bore up, and I had to press new bushings in here. I don't know if this will pick it up on camera, but the shaft on this is worn pretty good where it rides in these bushings. So this plate, which covers this part, it was really scored up from the gears rubbing on it here. So I worked it on a surface plate with some 120 grit sandpaper for about 2 hours, over 2 hours, and then to get it to this point. It's still got a little bit there, but my fingers couldn't take no more. So this is as good as it's got. It's far better than it was for sure. Then I finished it with some 600 paper that I had just to smooth it out. But like I say, it's far better. So I bought this Ferrex oil pump repair kit for it. It came with the new bushings, the new gears, the spring, what you see in there, the gasket, the new plunger for the relief valve. I pressed the new bushings in, and they closed up, so they were a little tight, so I had to get this .499 ream and run through it to open them up, because I couldn't even get the gear in it. Now it just drops right in there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to touch these gears up just to make sure that they're flat. And I don't have the surface plate here, it's at work, but here I'm going to use a pane of glass and some 400 paper. So let me get you set up on that. Alright, so I took these gears and I marked them up with a Sharpie just to put some color on them. And we're just going to run them over this paper here like this. Just a little bit. And all I'm doing is making sure there's no high spots on them. So it should rub that color off all the way across. Just like so on that one. And you can see, like on this one here, you can see that that little set screw deal they put in there. You can see where it's hitting, and it's not quite touching the rest of the gear yet. It kind of had a little burr rolled up on it. And there you can see it feels like it's all the way down against the gear now. So I colored it back up, and we're going to make one more pass on it here. And you can see that it wiped it off all the way across, so this should be okay. And we're going to stick it back in the, I'm going to drop it back in here, like that. Like that. And you can see it turns real smooth there. No binding in it. Hold on, let me get set up on another part of this. Okay, so in the service data on the book, the oil pressure relief springs, they give some information on that. Their working height is 1 3/8 inches. Yeah, and at 1 3/8 inches, they should be 8 1/4 pounds of force on them. So what I did is I took this 2x4 block and drilled a hole 1 3/8 inches deep on it, and I had this refrigerant scale here to check this. And we're gonna stick this spring in there, and I'm just gonna push down against the scale until the block hits the scale, like so, and we're just about right at about 9 pounds, maybe a tad over, which according to the book is within spec when the spring is compressed to 1 3/8 inches. Now the old spring, this is the old spring that I took out, and the new spring is a little bit heavier. The coil diameter, the wire diameter is a little bit more. And so when you check it, you can see we're about 15 pounds of force on that. And I'm only pushing down just enough to touch the block to the plate here. Of course, when I zero it, I put the block and the spring on there and zero it out. That way I know that it's just measuring that. So I'm gonna go with this new spring. It's got a little more pressure to it, and we'll see what happens there. All right, service data calls out a dimension between the gear point and the housing here between 3 and 4 thousandths, and I can just get this 4 thousandths gauge down in there. I don't have any tapered gauges here, but that 4 gets down in there, and that 5 is a little tougher to get around there. But see, I can just get that 4 in between there. So it's just within spec here. And they also call out to check the backlash between the teeth here on it. Shouldn't be more than 5. I mean, they say use a dial indicator, but I don't have one. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I can't. There's no way to change it if it's out of spec, other than maybe replacing the pump. And this pump does have a little bit of wear inside the body here. Like I say, when this thing was wore completely out, I mean, well, a little bit I was able to run this tractor, and in just a few minutes each time, it made oil pressure, but as it warmed up and got hot, you could hear a lot of clatter up in the top end of the valves up there. So I don't think oil was quite making it up there, or not enough. And when I drained the oil out of it, it was real thin and gassy smelling. Because this tractor sat for long, over 10 years too. But you know, it never had the maintenance done on it that it should have, you know, like a yearly oil change or anything like that. They just ran it until they had to do something to it, pretty much. So next we're getting ready to press on the aluminum drive gear here. So hold on for that. All right, I'm gonna press this gear. I had it in the oven out there, kind of warming that gear up. Hopefully it'll press down on there easier, to help it press on there easier. There she goes. She's still got to come down. It's a little hot to handle. It's still got to come down on there some. Let's try something a little different here. It's got to be pressed all the way down against the housing there. But yet you don't want it so tight that it can't turn. I don't know if I got you in frame here or not, but you want it up against the housing with no backlash this way, but free enough that it can spin. So. Okay, so when I pressed this aluminum gear on there, it took a little fiddling to get it down right. I ended up putting a socket right here and a socket right here and pressing it together, and then it locked it up. So I give it a tap back here with a hammer, and then that freed it up, so there's no back and forth play in it, and it turns smooth. So that's what we're after there. So we're gonna get ready to put this cover back down on it. This is just what I had laying around with some needle bearing grease to put in here. Vaseline will probably do the same thing. Just to give it some lube in here. So we're gonna drop the gears in. You can see they turn free and smooth. Now the kit comes with this little paper gasket here, and there's only one way that it'll go on there, like that. Put a little bit on the face of this plate here. The original gaskets were lead, and they were probably thinner than that, but this is what they supply. This plate will only really go on one way too. All right. I'm gonna put a little Loctite on these screws too much. I don't know if I'll be able to edit the video to show what this plate looked like. I got a picture of it before I touched it up. If I can get it, if I can figure out a way to get it in there, I'll do that. But it was pretty rough. Now I think these two middle screws here, they actually go in the oil port there, or in the galley. So you don't want any oil, no more oil leaking by than necessary here. Okay, and she still turns. All right, I'm gonna put a little lube on this. The kit come with this new piston here for the oil relief, pressure relief. I'm just gonna put a little bit of lube on that. I'm gonna drop it in there. Spring goes in behind it. And this little cup goes over the spring. Like that. And this cotter pin goes through there somewhere, right there. My pliers got off too. I'm just gonna bend it around like that. Should. All right, so now this kit come with this instruction sheet here on how to put this set screw. We got to drill and tap in here for this set screw. So let me get set up for that. Okay, back on the oil pump for my to20. So the kit that we put in it, the overhaul kit for the pump, was this Sparex part number here. And it come in that kit came with this instruction sheet. And they want you to, after you reassemble it, they want you to drill and tap this shaft and gear here for a set screw. Well, ran into a little issue with that. The shaft is a hardened shaft, so I had to get a carbide end mill and I took it and I got the hole punched in it, and then I went to tap it out with a cobalt bit or tap, and the tap broke off right here. So that's going to be my set screw. That's as far as I'm going to go with it, and we're going to run it like it is here. That kind of gets back into these aftermarket tractor parts, some of the issues that I have with the quality, I guess you could say. Now, the original gear and shaft that was in it right here had a similar setup, but they had a rivet pressed into that. So once the hole was drilled, they had a press-in rivet in that. And I assume it's just to help aid this gear to keep it from slipping on the shaft, even though it is a pretty hard press fit on it. But, so right now we're going to go with this. I don't think that's going to come out of there. Like I say, now when I pressed this gear, I only got it where it needed to be. It protruded just a little bit above the gear, so I had to grind it down flush. But it's all good now. I hope so. So we're going to get it in the tractor and then move on.